Traveler, let me show you how I make all of my early gameplay money as well as nanites in No Man's Sky Frontiers. Make sure to stick to the very end of the video as I'll show you a bonus side effect of this method that is really awesome. You can start doing this the moment you get off the Space Anomaly after only a few hours of gameplay. One of the key ingredients is cobalt, which can be easily found in caves or purchased from any terminal or space guy. You're going to need a bunch of oxygen, as much as you can afford, and at least one piece of chlorine or a piece of salt. Once you have your base ingredients all sorted and you got a boat pile of oxygen, as much as you can afford, let's get to refining. Salt by itself or salt infused with oxygen will create chlorine. Once you have a little bit of chlorine going on, split it into your other refineries and infuse that with oxygen. Continue to build your stacks of chlorine until you get a complete stack, or until you completely run out of oxygen. In that case, you'll have to sell a little bit of chlorine so you can buy some more oxygen. Don't worry, at this point you're never going to run out of money. Now, a lot of you travelers will have a little bit of cobalt on you from early game when you mined in caves. Cobalt will refine down to ionized cobalt all by itself, but I like to infuse it with oxygen just to speed up the process. Ultimately, you just want to turn all that cobalt that you have, except your little bit of stash that you want to hold onto, into ionized cobalt by infusing it with oxygen, just like you did with the chlorine. Ultimately, chlorine is worth more than ionized cobalt, so why do this with ionized cobalt? Well, it's quite simple, my dear Watson. At this point in the game, you don't have a lot of bag space, so you want to upgrade your bag space as quickly as possible, and while you're doing that, you're going to want to make a whole bunch of money. In order to make a whole boat pile of money, you're going to need to turn that ionized cobalt right back into cobalt. Every single time you land on a space station and upgrade your bag slot, well, you're just going to head right over to the terminal, sell all of your cobalt, crash the market, then buy it right back up. Generally, I like to grind out all of my bag slots at once while grabbing all of my glyphs while making a whole boat pile of money, and it all starts with infusing these elements with oxygen. Now, if you want to have the very best start, make sure you check out the video that's popping up in the upper right hand corner. It will show you what to do before and after what we're doing right now. I've got a pretty decent stash of chlorine going on at this point, so I'm going to start stuffing it into my exosuit, and it's all thanks to infusing it with oxygen. Refining does take a little bit of time, but as you can see, this stuff builds up really quickly in your refineries. In about 4 minutes, each of these refineries will pump out a stack size of about 4,000 if you're playing on normal. Obviously, the more refineries you have, the better, but instead of standing around, why not just take the opportunity to go outside, farm a little bit, or build on your base? If you watched my beginner's guide for No Man's Sky Frontiers, you'll understand that building right next to a trading post on a planet or a moon is the very best location to build at. This has even more importance if you play in either survival or permadeath mode, because your bag size is extremely limited. Alright, we got ourselves a big stash of ionized cobalt and chlorine. Now make sure that you keep a little bit of that ionized cobalt to turn back into cobalt. This is why I love to build right next to a trading post, not to mention it having an actual terminal for me to use early game, but I can sell all my stuff right here without worrying about crashing the market. This guy's buy price marginally sucks for my chlorine, so let's see if we can track down another one of these little ship guys and see if he has a better price. You always want to make sure you get the best bang for your buck, especially when you have a whole boat pile you're selling at once, and that is much better, so we're going to sell to this guy. Heck, even his ionized cobalt is in the plus, might as well sell this here as well. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but that was over 100 million right there. That didn't take me hardly any time at all, and you can do that right in the very early game. You have a little bit of money scrolled away. It is now time to turn some of that money into a whole bunch of nanites, and to do that, we're going to be scrapping ships. Unfortunately, that hauler is a bit expensive for early game purchases, so we're going to avoid haulers and higher tier fighter ships, but what we're looking for are the cheaper ships like that are at least a B or an A class. Of course, S classes are the best, they're just a little bit rare. Let's start out by purchasing one of these cheap ships. That A class right there is gonna be perfect. S and A class ships will have the very best chances to drop these storage augmentations, which is ultimately what we're after, so we can pimp out our main ship. Every single time you purchase one of these ships to scrap, make sure that you also scrap all of the components that you can within the starship. When you break down these components, some of them will actually have the byproduct of having a useful thing like antimatter right there, as well as the wiring looms. The wiring looms are used for a lot of upgrades early on, and well, that antimatter is basically a whole bunch of free warp cells. We've made our first purchase. Now let's run through the scrapping process. You just have to fly up over here and go to this little terminal. Once you click on the terminal, you'll be faced with a whole bunch of different options. We're just here to claim the scrap for this ship. Claiming the scrap from the ship will give you some items you can sell that are worth a little bit less than what you purchased the actual ship for, but more importantly, you're getting modules that you can sell to these guys over here. Interact with the NPC, then click on Purchase Upgrade Modules. From there, you're going to hit the Sell tab. You can now sell all these modules for nanites. Got ourselves a little bit of nanites from that, but more importantly, let's check and see if we got a storage augmentation, and there we did. We got one on our very first try. That's absolutely awesome. From here, it's basically rinse and repeat. Let's see if we can find some more ships that we can purchase. Oh, there's a B class right there. There's another B class right there, and there's another B class. Well, we're surrounded by ships we can purchase. Early game, you're not going to own 6 ships, but you can. So the cool thing is you can purchase 5 other ships before you even start scrapping stuff. Seeing as how I can purchase more ships, I'm just going to scrap everything in here, then put it inside my inventory. We're going to try to go over there and buy one of those other ships before they fly off. Alright, there's a hauler right there, and notice how expensive that is. You're going to run out of money even if you have 100 million if you purchase ships like that. One thing you should be doing at this stage while you're scrapping ships early game is to be purchasing oxygen off of each one of these guys that land, even the ships that you're not scrapping. Just make sure you're getting oxygen. This way, while you're losing just a little bit of money from scrapping ships while making nanites, you're going to have a whole bunch of oxygen to go back to your little newbie starter base and create a whole bunch more chlorine or ionized cobalt. Time to head back to the scrapper. This time we have 2 ships to scrap. I'm going to scrap them both at once and then get right back to buying 3 more ships. This is seriously one of the most exciting game stages for me early game. I love scrapping ships. Once I get in the habit of doing it, it's really hard to stop just because of the sheer volume of nanites I make. When the ship switches like that, when you purchase multiple ships, just make sure it doesn't pop to your main ship. If it does, you have to run over there, hop into this ship you want to scrap, and then come back and scrap it. This is the last ship of another set of 3 that I purchased back to back. I'm going to head over to this guy. We're going to sell all of these freaking modules and make a whole chunk of nanites all at once. There we are at 9,804 nanites. We're going to be creeping up over 12,000 nanites. We only spent a few minutes doing this. That's pretty awesome. Early game without exploits or bugs, that is really good money in nanites per time invested, as well as getting all those storage augmentations. Time for the bonus. I only spent a few minutes doing that after I built up a little bit of money. Of course, I already had billions. I'm acting like I was broke, just like you'll be in the beginning of the game, but we finally get to upgrade our ship here. For my ship, they want 200 million for a storage augmentation. That's crazy. I've already maxed out my general completely by doing this with free storage augmentations. Heck with spending 200 million when you got your ship almost all the way upgraded. Of course, I'm one short, but that right there is completely glorious.